Hello, good evening, and welcome to Secure the Continent. I am Benga Borough. This is the show where you bring you up to speed with all the security situations across the continent. But before we delve into today's discussions, let's first look at the top security headlines across Africa. Ethiopia declares state of emergency in Amhara region over violence. ECOWAS delegation fails to secure release of Niger ousted President Bazoum. Malian soldiers killed in jihadist ambush near Niger. 2 arrested after death of opposition supporter in Zimbabwe. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Today on Secure the Continent, our focus will be on the coup in Niger Republic, what it means for West Africa and the position of ECOWAS and the West. We have more background information for you in this package.
The African continent has witnessed another coup. On the 27th of July, soldiers in one of the West African countries, Niger Republic, went on national television to declare that they had overthrown the government of Mohamed Bazoum. Bola Ahmed Tinubu sent a delegation to the country on Thursday to meet the coup leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani. It is believed that the delegation didn't meet General Chiani. Bazoum has called on the US and its other Western allies to help restore the country's democracy, with Niger's junta also sticking to its guns and warning against foreign interference. Neighboring countries such as Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea has pledged support for the Niger junta and promised to send in troops. The situation in Niger once again opens up a deeply infesting wound of political instability in the West African sub-region. With less than 2 days to the expiration of the deadline given by ECOWAS to restore President Bazoum, Niger's junta has declared it will not allow an incursion into its affairs, but it risks what the world deems to be a last resort, show of force. One neither the world, nor ECOWAS or Niger can afford.
Now, joining me tonight to discuss this very fluid situation in Niger Republic, I have Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, who joins us from London in the United Kingdom. I also have Adib Sani, security expert, who joins us from Ghana. And our third panelist in the program today is Ibrahim Zain Koyi, a social-political activist who joins us from Kaduna in northern Nigeria. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on Secure the Continent tonight. I'd like to start with you, Dr. David Matsanga in London. Niger's coup leaders have justified their actions by citing poor governance and security concerns related to groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Can you delve deeper into the security landscape and governance challenges that may have contributed to this coup? And are you in support of this coup? Or are their reasons justified?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'm not hearing the question properly because maybe there's some network challenges. But as the situation in West Africa, in the country of Niger, what is every African? And for us on the continent, most of us who have been campaigning for an Africa that goes democratic situation lines, we are worried. And therefore, the whole of Sahara region, the entire Sahara region, and most of the countries in West Africa neighboring Niger are at a risk if we allow this type of military takeovers to come in and the people to take arms instead of sitting down to talk and have dialogue. I think given all this, there is need for Africa to wake up and stand and start discussing why coups happen in Africa. What are the root causes? What makes people, the army leave the barracks to come and take over civilian elected governments?
Thank you,
I don't know
Dr.
whether I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. I'd like to bring in Adib Sani in Ghana. Adib, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has imposed sanctions on Niger, including the possibility of a military intervention to reinstate the ousted president. That deadline that was issued by ECOWAS expires in 2 days. How effective, Adib, do you think these measures might be in achieving their intended goals in restoring the government of Mohamed Bazoum, and how might they impact the regional stability? Adib, can you kindly unmute your device, please? You need to unmute your device. We don't have your audio, please. Okay, while we try to sort that technical issue, I'd like to bring in Ibrahim Zain Konye in Kaduna. Now, Ibrahim, I'll direct that question that was directed to Adib to you. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has imposed sanctions on Niger, including the possibility of military intervention to reinstate the ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, which expires in 2 days on Sunday. How effective do you think these measures might be in achieving their intended goals, and how might they impact the regional stability?
First of all, my name is Ibrahim Zain Konji. Regarding the sanctions or a warning by ECOWAS to the military junta in Niger, ECOWAS has not taken the right decision. And unfortunately, there were international superpowers were behind ECOWAS or they imposed ECOWAS to take this decision. So this coup is not new to Niger, neither to Africa. In Niger alone, we had this is the 5th military coup. For the last 3 years, we had 7 military coups in Africa. From the independence to today, from 1963 to date, we had over 100 coups in Africa. So either at African Union level or down to sub-region ECOWAS, we have not seen anything like military intervention because of the military coup. Yes, military coups are unconstitutional. We have to stop them. We should put a limit to spreading the military coups in Africa. Africans have suffered a lot, most especially the French colonies in Africa. With the exception of Senegal, none of them have not experienced either a military coup or political unrest or civil wars to the extent of genocides. Most of those atrocities we know how they came to, not because of the Africans, no. Other nations who have interest in African resources, they had to ignite those crises, and then tomorrow they will come and supervise those crises and to scrape those crises in order for them to take African rich resources freely. So what happened? The coup was on Wednesday, 26th of last month. On Saturday in the afternoon, there was a meeting of French Defense Council in Élysée. I was asking myself, where was the coup? The coup was in Niger or was in France. So I don't understand when the coup is in Niger Republic as an independent sovereign nation, when there was a military coup, French Defense Council had to call for a meeting. That was on Saturday. Then on Sunday, they ordered ECOWAS to meet and put those sanctions and put the last option as the primary option, which is military intervention. That should be the last. No one has given the chance.
Now, Zain, permit me to interrupt you there, just to get some things straight. You said the French ordered ECOWAS And I believe ECOWAS is a body of independent West African states. Can you clarify the source of that information that says, you know, Paris ordered ECOWAS to impose sanctions on Niger?
Let us take the chain of things. There's no independent majority of our nations in Africa. Those countries are only independent on paper. They don't have their own decision. The decision always have been ordered by foreign nations. One, all those our institutions, regional, start from AU, CEMAC and Central African nations, SADC and the Southern, all our nations are referring whatever the decisive decisions have been ordered and they have been taken it. This is something clear crystal, is not a point of doubt. We are Africans, we are in Africa, we know our situation, we know our the way we have been controlled and manipulated day and night. Why ECOWAS have not taken such a decision in the coup of Burkina Faso last year, or the one earlier in Mali? Why they haven't taken it? So why the ECOWAS had met an accident? By all of the sudden the coup was on Wednesday, and French Defense Council met on Saturday, and then ECOWAS came and met on Sunday. Just 40 minutes for them to take unpopular decisions, unfriendly decisions, unjust decisions, or ideally, ECOWAS to meet the sister nation of Niger as a member should be invited, or send a delegation in the first place who let us discuss about to restore the constitutional system, the democratic system, military or army officers, you should go to the barracks. So all those things should come as priority, not in the first to put unjust, decisive, unfriendly, unpopular sanctions against a sister nation without even any room for discussion. So why those sanctions?
I think there's a problem from your place.
Guinea? Why?
Okay, thank you, Zain. Sorry for that mix-up. I would like to bring in Adib Sani in Ghana to react to some of the things you said. Adib, this is not the first coup in West Africa in the last 1 year. And Zain did raise a very poignant question that why wasn't the ECOWAS reaction to the coup in Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Mali this steep? Now, looking at the complex socio-political landscape in Niger, can you provide a nuanced analysis of the coup leaders, General Abdurrahman Chiani's defiance against ECOWAS, ECOWAS's pressure, because it's not backing down and has warned them to stay away from the internal affairs of his country. His characterization of the events of ECOWAS, the sanctions, he called them illegal and inhumane. Adib, I'd like to take your reaction on this. Hello, Adib, are you there? Okay, I'll direct the question to Dr. Matanga. Dr. Matanga, did you hear me clearly?
Well, I'm not hearing you at all.
Okay, I would repeat my
subject.
I would like to repeat myself. If you can hold on for a minute, let me repeat the question. I said that the coup leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani's defiance against ECOWAS is not bowing to their pressure. ECOWAS has said, you know, they might have to resort to military intervention as a last resort, and that deadline expires on Sunday. From feelers we're getting that the Nigerian president has sought approval from the Senate to allow for some sort of intervention in Niger. What do you make of all of this, given the complex socio-political landscape in Niger?
I think I picked a few words from you regarding expiry of the deadline on Sunday and the sanctions that the ECOWAS has put on Niger. But let me first of all explain that sanctions usually on military coups or military juntas only harden the situation of the soldiers in the barracks. We should try both ways. We should have envoys going into Niamey to see what best can be done, what discussions they can conduct. Is there a possibility of dialogue? first of all, the most worrying factor for me and for everybody across the world is where is the president? Where is the ousted president? We have not seen this man on the screen. We have not seen him.
I mean, we saw him a few days ago. He was with the president of Chad.
Is he in jail? Is he in hospital? We are worried. So sanctions always bite. They harden the junta. But on the expire of the deadline on Sunday, does ECOWAS go in militarily or not? We should look at the history of ECOWAS in 1990, the entry in the Sierra Leone and the Liberia war. What happened? Taylor comes in, later on defeats ECOWAS. How much are they able to sustain? We don't want to the rest of West African enclave to become another Syria, where all armed groups come in one place to create instability around the entire region. So I think when we are talking about sanctions, we are talking about military intervention, we must be careful that let's try both dialogue, then by Sunday, if things don't work out, let's look for another way. They can be persuaded. Me, I have a worry that there's something bigger than all this, which has happened in that country. Because usually, when a military coup takes place, you display the suspect. You wanted the people to know that the president is no longer in power. But these guys have not displayed the former president. We don't know whether he's still alive. We are only hearing reports from France, from United States of America saying they have talked to him. They could be talking to somebody else. And these are some of the worries that African Union and ECOWAS and other mediators must establish. Where is the former president? What about his safety? Is he safe? Is he alive? Where have they kept him? So then we can move on to stage number 2. Do you want to continue with the coup? Because we don't want this place to be sacked. We don't want the East and the West rivalry to suck into the West African enclave of the Sahara region. We already have a bad situation in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Guinea-Conakry. We have a bad situation in Chad. We have another bad situation in Libya. We have a bad situation already in Sudan. We wouldn't like to see this happening to us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. Talking about the ousted president's whereabouts, Mohamed Bazoum. Earlier this week, there was a picture that was released with him smiling with the president of Chad, Mahamat Déby Itno, just to give some clarification on that. Now, back to you, Ibrahim. Dr. Matsanga has rightly said that, we should explore dialogue and we shouldn't be quick to prefer military solutions as an intervention to this impasse in Niger. And it did give a very sound example of how Syria became a playground for geopolitical interests. You have the Russians, you have the Turks, and everybody just wanted to get a piece of Syria. And we stand the danger of having that because the military governments in Guinea, in Mali, and Burkina Faso have said, an attack on Niger will be an attack on them. So, Ibrahim, how do historical precedents of military takeovers in neighboring West African states such as Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea contribute to our understanding of the current crisis in Niger and ECOWAS's response?
Great. Let us set the record straight. First of all, as I said earlier, military coups are not new to Africa. Most especially those countries have been colonized by France. With the exception of Senegal, the remaining countries, either they have gone through military coups or civil wars or political unrest and tensions. So, military coups are the previous ones. Most of them have been orchestrated by foreign powers. So this military coup now, the one of Niger, the current one, had it been this group were dancing at the tunes of the French, we would not have all this noise, all this discussion and whatever debate. No, it goes smoothly. But this group came, suppose they opposed the interests of France in Niger resources, especially the uranium. That angle became as a global issue, and ECOWAS has been dragged into. ECOWAS is an economical committee. It's not a military organization. So in the ECOWAS charter, there's nothing like an article says to go out. Even some nations are calling it illegal decision. Put it aside, right? Those francophone countries, till today, I am saying it. I'm responsible for what I'm saying. Those countries colonized by France, majority of them are still under direct control of France, not influence, control of France. So had it been those military coup looters or the military junta of Niger today, they were friendly to French interests, things have not escalated to this stage or have not taken to this dimension. Because they are saying, no, we are going to safeguard our nation and protect our homeland. To protect from who? Everybody knows. Who is predating that nation? A nation of Niger Republic. Niger, a country is very rich with mineral resources, largest exporter of uranium in Africa, has a large deposit of gold, petroleum, gas, animal resources, agriculture, despite that, one of the poorest countries in the world today. So this so-called military intervention, whether military or any foreign intervention, is not useful for any country. Let us take Mali back to 10 years back, 2012. Foreign intervention was there. After 12 years, what were the results? Nothing. Where was the peace? Nothing. Where the economy, infrastructure, development? Nothing. In fact, the new coup looters who had come became a little bit more merciful than even the previous regimes. So now to invade a country like Nigeria, we are in Nigeria, we know what is Nigeria. Nigeria has its own problems. Nigeria should entertain and solve its own economical security problems before to go to invade another country. Nigeria is not in the right position to attack another country for any reason, unless if it defended itself or national sovereignty. Yes. It's understandable. For any other reason, Nigeria has its own, as we say, so many problems is facing. Should concentrate on that. If it's coming as a dialogue, as a neighbor nation, yes, as a sister nation, yes, it's understandable, right?
Now, sorry to interrupt you, Ibrahim. Sorry to interrupt you, Ibrahim. The chairmanship of ECOWAS is the Nigerian president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the current chairman of ECOWAS. And in order to have a body that is not all back and no bites, and to send a strong message that, look, as a regional bloc, we will not tolerate any more coup d'etats. Do you not think this proposed intervention and threat is justified on the basis of that? Or is still not
Absolutely
Nigeria's
no.
business?
It's not through this provocative and aggressive manner. All African Francophone countries, as I said, for the last 70 years, we have been experiencing military coups. And interventions have been coming, but in a mild way, in a civilized way, in a friendly way. That's understandable. Now see when they provoked the military junta and they have taken counteractions. And now, so the decisions what the military junta have taken, ordinarily they may not take now. They opened and they said we're ready, and now they accepted everything, they challenged and they defied. Initially, that's what they were. It wasn't what they're doing. The first day of the meeting on Sunday, they delegated Muhammad Debi, Muhammad who came through military coup, who is illegitimate, undemocratic, going and fighting another military coup. Does it make sense? But when there was a coup in Chad 2 years back, we have not had all this noise.
Thank you very much for pointing out that situation with Chad. Because at the death of his father, it wasn't the one that was meant to take over, Mahamat Debi, but I mean the West African sub-region and Western interest overlooked that scenario. in Chad. So thanks for pointing that out, Ibrahim. I would like to bring in our third guest into this conversation, Adib Sani in Ghana. Now, Adib, Nigeria's decision to cut power to Niger and the no-fly zone that's been imposed by ECOWAS adds a new dimension to the crisis. Can you delve into the geopolitical and humanitarian implications of this action, especially considering Niger's heavy dependence on Nigerian power?
You see, we have to put some things in perspective. But first of all, sorry for the mishap, those are the hazards of technology. The thing is, when you sanction, it doesn't just affect the sanctioned, it affects the sanctioner. As we speak, Ghana is heavily reliant on Niger for onions. And it is expected that soon onion prices in Ghana will
be out of control. We also depend on Niger for livestock products. Okay, so let's not be tempted to think that when you sanction, it is only the sanctions that it affects. It affects also the sanctioner, okay? And one more thing, sanctions never affect the coupists. It is the ordinary people who suffer, especially owing to the fact that already a good number of Nigerians live below the poverty line. There is widespread unemployment and other human insecurities in which a bulk of the population don't have access to basic necessities of life. So you are only adding insult to injury, which might pose a serious existential threat to the security of the whole sub-region. Besides, Niger has big neighbors, Algeria, Libya, Mali, and the rest. Algeria and Libya are not members of ECOWAS, so you don't expect that directives from ECOWAS would be obeyed by them. Mali has already indicated that, look, if you intervene militarily in Niger, you are declaring war against us. And so there's no way they would implement ECOWAS decisions so far as border closures, etc., is concerned in Niger. I think ECOWAS's approach hasn't worked over the years, and trust me, it's not going to work in this situation. We need to gear our efforts towards preventing these coups. You don't have to wait for things to spiral out of control. And by the way, when you look at the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance, it's quite specific under Article 23 that, look, any manipulation of the Constitution constitutes a constitutional coup. So it is not
those
only soldiers
third-term leaders, the third-term termers, the civilians that are seeking to extend the constitutional term in office, are also planning some type of coup. But we don't get this sort of strong reactions from ECOWAS.
That is the problem. That is a problem with ECOWAS. It's more like a firefighting institution. It's more like a president's club, you know, where interest of heads of states is protected over ECOWAS citizens. Okay, when Alassane Ouattara went first, second, we know how he came to power. When Laurent Gbagbo refused to leave, we all supported Alassane Ouattara. He got a first, second, now he got a third. By changing the constitution, now he wants his brothers to go. His political opponents, such as Julius Soro, have been witch-hunted. See what is currently happening in Senegal. The main opposition party has been dissolved by the government. What is ECOWAS doing about it? The main opposition figure, Ousmane Sonko, has been arrested under very frivolous charges of
sexual harassment,
corrupting the youth, and of course, knocking the phone of a gendarme. What is ECOWAS saying about it? Adam Abaro in 2017 was refused by Yahya Jammeh. ECOWAS intervened. He got a first, second, now he wanted to go for a third. Look at what happened under Alpha Conde when he wanted to go for third. Many people died. What did ECOWAS do about it? So until ECOWAS changes its way by addressing these deep-rooted human rights issues of democracy, we will always have the military taking advantage of the frustration of the people to seize power. And I think that is my biggest challenge with ECOWAS. And trust me, it will be catastrophic. It will be extremely dangerous, okay, for any military intervention to be attempted in Niger. Niger is a huge country. Ghana has a landmass of about 238,000. Nigeria has a landmass of about 930,000 square kilometers. Guess what?
Okay.
Nigeria has a landmass of 1.27 million square kilometers. We cannot afford to make that mistake.
Thank you very much, Adib. A fine place to go on a break, gentlemen. When we return, we'll pick up from where Adib left off. The consequences of this proposed military intervention by ECOWAS as the deadline expires in 48 hours. Who stands to gain what? And will this send a powerful message that gone are those days of ECOWAS being the cool belt, the West African cool belt of Africa? Do stay with us. This is Secure the Continent on News Central Television. We'll be right back after this quick timeout. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Secure the Continent, and we've been discussing the recent coup in Niger Republic and the security implications for the Sahel and the West African sub-region. And joining me on this discussion is Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, joins from London in the United Kingdom. I also have Adib Sani, a security expert, joins in from Ghana, and also Ibrahim Zain Konji, socio-political activist, who joins in from Kaduna in northern Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us on the program. I'd like to pick up from where I left off with Adib Sani. Now, Adib Sani, the threats of ECOWAS employing force if President Bazoum isn't reinstated by Sunday raises specific issues and concerns about the potential regional instability. Could you elaborate more on the intricacies of deploying a military intervention force in this context and its potential consequences?
Okay, so like I first indicated, Niger is a big country. These days, wars are not that simplistic. Russia went into Ukraine, and the guise of special military operation. Today, the war is over 1 year old, and it's become more like a stalemate. So wars are not, like a walk in the park. It's not that simplistic. So my fear is if we start a war, it's going to protract and it's going to drag us backwards. And for a number of governments, especially within the West African sub-region, including Ghana, all our economic woes as a result of misgovernance, as a result of corruption, is associated with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Everything in this country, all the politicians say is because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine or COVID-19. So,
but is that a valid excuse?
No, of course that's not a valid excuse, but to some extent it is, because it had, implications on the global economy. Okay, so consider how far Ukraine is from us. Now juxtapose it with how close Niger is to us, and mind you, a war with Niger means a war with Burkina Faso, a war with Mali, and probably Benin. And that will be cataclysmic to the sub-regional security. 3, issues of terrorism. We know the activities of Jenim, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS-affiliated groups in Mali. And that is what they love, chaos. So in the midst of the chaos, we will be giving them that unique opportunity to reorganize, retool, rearm themselves, and pose a serious threat to West African countries, especially those in the littorals who haven't been touched by terrorism like Ghana. Okay? Already we are dealing with a myriad of security issues. Nigeria is dealing with Boko Haram. Still, Nigeria hasn't been able to defeat Boko Haram, and you are opening a new front. Let's be extremely careful with this, and let's be mindful of the fact that when we go to war with Niger, it's tantamount to going to war with ourselves on behalf of somebody else. So let's not be believer about the fact that going to war with Niger means we are fighting someone's battle. Okay, and we need to look at certain nuances, whether it is a practical approach to resort to considering the security implications it will have on the subcontinent. Already after the meeting, I understand from my diplomatic contacts that Benin, Senegal, Nigeria have promised to commit to soldiers. How many soldiers they are going to contribute is what we don't know. Who is going to fund the war is what we don't know. Okay, so we need to really be circumspect in our approach to this Nigerian issue. Let us not, in our haste to satisfy people's ego, be quick to go into a war, scenario. If not, we might have ourselves to blame.
Thank you very much, Adib Sani. I'd like to bring in Dr. David Matanga in London. Now, Dr. Matanga, earlier this week, the defense ministers of ECOWAS countries, a few of them met in Abuja to, discuss this coup in Niger. Neighboring countries like Mali and Burkina Faso have also expressed support for the military-backed government in Niger. Could you provide an insight into the regional dynamics at play and the potential consequences for stability in the broader West African region? Now, this states Burkina Faso and Mali that have said, an attack on Niger will be an attack on us. Do they have the military capacity to move troops to Niger to defend the junta, or is it just talk and threats at this point in time?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much. I've picked your question from a bit of the people, because the line is becoming clearer now. There are several factors that can come out of ECOWAS intervention. One, the repercussions. This is what Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger can do, could create what we call a guerrilla warfare. Already the northern parts of Nigeria, the southwestern parts of Nigeria, and the most of parts of Nigeria, and some of the states, including Libya on the north, things are not very good at all. We still have a problem there. So we must be very careful before we go in militarily. Military means could mean the three states could come together. They might not manage the Nigerian manpower, but they can manage what we call guerrilla warfare and insurgency. They could create insurgency. The jihadists in all these groups could come in, and we are already seeing the West, which is the Wagner group, which is the Russian group, and then we have the West, the Americans, who always eat with us, laugh with us, but when a coup comes, they run away very fast, and then they have left this president under siege, already taken by the soldiers. They cannot take any action. So it is very, very dangerous situation. ECOWAS must weigh under which countries can sustain a war, a guerrilla warfare, which could erupt in the Sahel region, which could disrupt the entire region and even force more governments in that region to fall. Mark you, what is causing all this trouble? The younger generation among the soldiers who are not Dr. Matanga of those days when we were brigadiers in the army or brigadier generals in the army. The younger men now ambitious. Some of them are becoming ambitious. And this is growing with the social media that we have. Two, Nigeria itself has not stabilized its internal dynamics. There is quite a lot of insurgency. Boko Haram on the other east, the ISIS, the Al-Qaeda Maghreb units, the sleeper cells in Mali, all these sleeper cells across in Chad. There is a sleeper cell across in Libya. It can become a terrible war. And what I look at from an international aspect is that someone wants to keep us busy in this area, because there is no big other area where they are very busy. In Ukraine, they cannot go in directly. here in West Africa, the government of
Okay.
Nigeria and ECOWAS must be very careful to study the pattern of deceit that comes from our Western powers friends who can tell us, let's go in, remove these generals, but the generals might not be removed. It could make matters worse. Let's try dialogue twice. The AU must send groups inside to talk to the army generals, to give them amnesty, to tell them return the government to a civilian government. You can go out and stay wherever you want to stay.
Thank
we
you,
shall
Doctor.
not touch you. These are human beings, because the complaints are real genuine. Some of these complaints, if you look at Niger, they have been there since independence. They have killed many presidents around there. So we have a problem there. So it must be carefully executed. It must be executed with speed, preciseness, and if you are targeting the army headquarters to rescue the president, if you are targeting the leadership itself, you must, because ECOWAS has the capability. But
thank you very much, Dr. Matanga. Just because we're quickly running out of time, I would like to have Ibrahim have his last say on this. I believe the general consensus on the panel tonight is for cool heads, because there's serious geopolitical implications to this. And we shouldn't be fighting the battle. We shouldn't be fighting ourselves in the long run just because of because of proxy wars and geopolitical interests outside the African continent. Now, Ibrahim, as we begin to wrap up on this program, how might ECOWAS effectively balance its commitment to democracy and stability with the potential challenges of a military intervention should it become necessary? What would you advise should be the reasonable way to go about this? Because, like I mentioned earlier, the defense ministers met earlier this week. They would have intelligence, and they should know the security implications that some of distinguished panelists have mentioned today if a military intervention prevails in Niger, if ECOWAS intervenes militarily, which is not a very pretty picture. We've seen examples of this rife in history. So how can they balance the needs for democracy and also a military intervention if necessary, Ibrahim?
Well, I don't really know, because unfortunately, ECOWAS right from the beginning has acted in a wrong way and approached the wrong approach. So they lost the credibility, angered and provoked the military junta over there, became a hostile to the military junta, and the military junta openly come and stood and defied. The issue, I will say it again, and I know what I'm saying, and I'm responsible for what I'm saying. This is not an issue of ECOWAS, issue of France. If those military juntas, France was happy with them, we will not see all this noise, the way the military coup happened in Chad exactly 2 years ago. Now, France is not happy with this situation. France is trying to do in Niger what has done in Ivory Coast 2011, the way arrested Laurent Gbagbo. That's what France is trying to do, but cannot come openly in the broad daylight. They are using ECOWAS to come in. French troops are on the ground, over 1,500 personnel French on Niger soil. Over 7 military bases are there. About 8 airports in Niger, I have seen them. All are controlled by French army. So they want to just to use ECOWAS for them to come in. And military junta today are asked to go. All those treaties or agreements with the French army are, and France in return said, no, the military are not responsible and it's not a legitimate government. But most of those contracts, secret treaties and agreements, French in 60s and 40s, in 60s and 70s had signed with the military junta.
Sorry, Ibrahim, I'm going to have to end the program at this point because we're fast run out of time. I would like to say thank you to our distinguished guest, Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, who joined from London in the United Kingdom, deep science security experts who joined from Accra in Ghana, and also Ibrahim Zain Konji, socio-political activist in Kaduna. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your insights and contribution to the program. I do really appreciate it. Thank you.